Whoa, boy, oh boy. Just when you think tension can't get ratcheted up another degree, we get Justice Anthony Kennedy retiring, which means a long, hot summer in our nation just got a lot longer and a lot hotter. And not in a good way like on Pornhub. I'm Clay Travis. This is Outkick the Show, presented by SportsbookReview.com. We've got lots to get to. Thought it was going to be kind of a quiet day in June. I'm glad I'm not in the car driving to the beach house. I'm flying down on Saturday. Instead, I'm here plugged in the catbird seat, ready to talk to you guys about a ton that is going on in the universe of politics, sports, media, business. So many different things to hit. But you know what you need to do if you're gambling right now. Go to Sportsbook Review and make sure that you are checking out and getting the best possible odds no matter what you're gambling on, whether it's where LeBron and Kawhi are going to go and end up or whether it's the World Cup. Go to SportsbookReview.com. And I got to tell you, if you need a mortgage right now or you need to get pre-qualified in time for the weekend, go to my guy Ryan Kelly, thehomeloanexpert.com. You go to thehomeloanexpert.com and you will be well on your way to saving a bundle. Let me tell you right now, thehomeloanexpert.com, whether you need to get pre-qualified or just wipe out all of your credit card debt, imprint it in your brain, go wherever you can, thehomeloanexpert.com. All right, let's talk. Supreme Court. Going to put my lawyer hat on. I've got my gavel of justice laying around here somewhere. Here's my gavel of justice from my years at Vanderbilt Law School, where I was given a seat on the moot court board because of my excellent oral advocacy skills. I got to tell you, this is a mess. This is a mess. Justice Anthony Kennedy, after 30 years, is retiring, originally appointed by Ronald Reagan. He is now giving up his seat, and he will be replaced by a Trump judicial appointee. So there are a lot of different aspects at play here. I don't believe there have even been very many comments that have been made so far. Let me go kind of walk you through why this is a massive deal, what I believe is likely to come. First of all, I think this has been in the works for a while. Mitch McConnell, who is a Jedi of the Senate, had already announced that the Senate was not going to be taking a long summer break. He already had this on the calendar. And as a result, I think that there is probably a lot of preparation. You can criticize Donald Trump for much in the universe of his presidency so far. What you cannot criticize him for is he's actually done a pretty good job deferring to people who actually know something about the legal system and letting them give him a great list of nominees. I think his selection so far of Gorsuch, or however you pronounce his name, I don't even feel comfortable saying his name, but he's been on the court. He's a reliable, reasonable judicial appointment, regardless of what your temperament is or regardless of what your politics are. With Anthony Kennedy, I think this is going to be messy because Kennedy, over 30 years on the court, has done about the best thing I can say about any judge, which is sometimes I agree with him, sometimes I don't agree with him, but there seems to be a genuine attempt to get at the essence of the decisions that he's making. I thought his decision in the gay marriage case, probably 10 or 15 years ahead of where the country was and is, but I think it was the right decision. I think his decisions on many cases having to do with for instance, affirmative action, oftentimes have been wrong. That's my personal opinion. You guys can agree or disagree. I think in general, he's been a very good selection for the Supreme Court. So now the question becomes, how will this process play out? And I'm curious what you guys think. I'd like to get your poll questions. Should the Republicans try and get a Supreme Court justice seated before the midterms, or should they wait until after the midterms, which obviously will be taking place in November? Here, let me give you a couple of arguments before I get your opinion. If you decide to do it beforehand, then you are likely motivating many people who might be out there that dislike your brand of politics. You're also contradicting in some ways the decision that was made by Mitch McConnell when he held open the Justice Antonin Scalia seat and waited for the presidential election. If you do that, you do put a lot of pressure on sitting senators who may be in states where they are likely to lose. I don't think it really matters that much in the grand scheme of things, because I think if you wait you are likely to motivate Republican voters to show up at midterms and vote in high magnitude. If you make the decision beforehand, then maybe you end up losing a couple of Senate seats on the margins because you motivate Democrats who are angry over the decision. Here are the states right now where I am looking at the math, and I think these are election that's taking place in 2018 where there's uncertainty as to who is going to be able to win. All right, are you ready? Florida, Indiana, Missouri, Montana, North Dakota, Arizona, Nevada, Tennessee, West Virginia, and Wisconsin. Now, some of these will lean one way or the other, but I would say, what's that? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. I've got 10 different Senate elections that I would rate as uncertain as to who is going to actually win. All right, are you ready for these again? Florida, Indiana, Missouri, Montana, North Dakota, Arizona, Nevada, Tennessee, West Virginia, Wisconsin. I don't need all of you to weigh in on your individual states because I'm sure that there are lots of people out there where there is uncertainty. I'm not putting Texas on the list. Beto O'Rourke has a 0% chance of beating Ted Cruz. So all you Democrats out there that are like, oh, we're going to beat Ted Cruz. No, you're not. Ted Cruz is up 10 points right now. He is going to, pardon the pun, cruise to an election. I think there are certainly many different states where it's likely that the party in power may lose an election. For instance, if I were rating them right now, I think Missouri is the most likely seat to flip from a Democrat to a Republican. I think that probably Arizona is the most likely Senate seat to flip from a Republican to a Democrat. Now, I'm not an expert. I'm not claiming to be the Cook Political Report here. I'm just telling you how I think it's going to play out. I think the overall outcome is unlikely to change with the Democrats having a minority and the Republicans having a majority. Now, if you make the decision to go through with it from the get-go, here's what you're going to run into: a filibuster. Because there will be many different Democratic senators who are thinking that they are going to run for president, who want to have their moment in the sun, who want to be standing there on the Senate floor, passing the baton for days. They want their Mr. Smith goes to Washington. They want their close-up. They want their standing there fighting for the people. They will try to cut each other to see who can stand and talk in the vestibule of the Senate for the longest possible time. I'm not an expert in Senate machinations. I don't know how you actually end a filibuster if a huge group of Democrats decides, you know what, we're going to move into the Senate floor and we're going to sleep there forever. You only need a majority of the vote. You have the filibuster, I believe, in order to get to 60 votes. You have to be able to break the filibuster on debate. In terms of how many votes you have to give once you break debate, I believe you only need a majority, or in this case, you would only need 50 because the tie would be broken by Mike Pence. So it's going to be a mess. Here is my Travis compromise that I am floating because my effort and interest is in to avoid this mess. This is going to be messy, but at least Anthony Kennedy is a Republican appointee who's going to be replaced by another Republican appointee. Ruth Bader Ginsburg is 85 years old. She, at any moment, as any 85-year-old could do, could die. All right? In an ideal place where statesmanship matters, where relationships in the Senate govern, where people who are senators think not just of themselves and the immediate political imperative, but for the future of the country and also to act in the best interest of the nation as a whole, here is what I would like to see. Here's what I would like to see happen. I would like to see Ruth Bader Ginsburg step down and the Senate Democrats get to pick a nominee to replace her, who would be looked at by the Republicans, would have to be a reasonable replacement, and the Republicans get to replace Justice Kennedy, and we trade them. Now, I'm told this happened in a West Wing episode. I think this would be ideal. I think it would look great for the Senate. I think it would be ideal for our country, because what I fear is that we have embarked on such an incredible, insane, polarized climate that as bad as this is going to be with Justice Kennedy, and it's going to be ugly and it's going to be nasty before he has a confirmation replacement, if Ruth Bader Ginsburg dies, then many people out there are going to believe that everything is at stake, that whether or not abortion is legal is at stake. I think that's one of the worst things that could happen to Republicans in the history of their political party is for them to take over the Supreme Court and rule that Roe v. Wade is no longer the settled law of the land, because I think immediately they would get walloped. The Republicans in that context would be like a dog that suddenly caught a car. You ever see a dog chase a car? What does the dog do when it actually catches the car? A lot of times you'll see a dog like running as hard as it can down the street, and there's a car running down, and then the dog catches the bumper, and then what happens? Either the dog gets dragged and it dies, or it bites the bumper, loses teeth, and ends up losing the overall war here. I think that you can win the battle and lose the war. This is the dog chasing the car scenario for Republicans. Being against abortion motivates voters to come out. Abortion being illegal in the country motivates Democrats to come out. You get crushed everywhere. So I think this actually works to the Democrats and the Republicans' benefit. You can continue to have your pro-choice and your anti-choice, or whatever phrase you want to use, pro-abortion, anti-abortion, whatever it is. You can still have that argument going on, but nothing really changes, so it's just noise. If you make abortion illegal in the country, first of all, you throw it back to the states in theory, right? Because this should be a state decision. And what you would end up with is a hodgepodge of different state laws as to whether or not abortion is going to take place. It becomes complicated because are you going to travel from a conservative state to a liberal state to get an abortion? It is a mess, okay? That is what is likely to happen if Ruth Bader Ginsburg ending up in this situation, okay? So I don't know what the overall outcome is here, but what I would like to see is some form of statesmanship apply. I know it's not going to. I know it's going to be political. I know it's going to be ugly. People hate Donald Trump. They're going to hate the idea that he's going to get his second Supreme Court appointee. I hope that the Republican White House has done a good job vetting candidates and they have a good candidate to put forward here. But I think in an ideal world, what would happen is Ruth Bader Ginsburg would go in. She would meet with Donald Trump one-on-one. She would say, Mr. President, I don't agree with many of your policies, but I am 85 years old. I would like to see myself replaced by someone who cares politically about many of the same issues that I do. I think it would be a great gesture of goodwill if you came out and you and I went out to a press conference together and we announced this compromise whereby I would step down, but the Senate Democrats would be able to consult and provide a nominee to replace me, and the Senate Republicans will be able to replace Justice Anthony Kennedy, and we end up in the exact same situation as we are now, where people of different beliefs sit on the court, they argue, and they ultimately try to make the decision that they believe is the best for the country. I understand that that's probably asking too much right now, given how highly partisan our politics are, but this is an opportunity for many people to be statesmanlike and make a smart decision that would actually benefit the country, as opposed to thinking only about what's going to benefit your particular political party for a short-term turnaround, okay? That is a reasonable and legitimate compromise that I think could be floated by intelligent people and make this a better solution than we have right now. So then everybody can sign off on it, and you end up with two different Supreme Court nominees, one who's appointed by a Republican president and remains appointed by a Republican president, the other one who is being supported by the Democrats. And that way you get a compromise through. We have the election in 2018. People can make whatever decision they want about their respective candidates. And then we move on in 2020, and you make the decision, can we beat Donald Trump or not? If you are Democrats, you try to find a nominee who can beat him. I saw the other day where Mayor Michael Bloomberg is considering running. I would love to see him run. I don't think it's possible that he could get the Democratic nominee, but he is an example of a guy, former New York City mayor, that I would be very interested in voting for because I liked what he did as mayor of New York City. I don't agree with everybody in every political party, so you don't need to tell me something that you don't like that Mayor Bloomberg did. The only person I 100% agree with all day long, every day is me, and half the time I don't even agree with me, and the majority of the time my wife doesn't. So that is my theory here for what I would do. Okay, if I were trying to balance this out. I always say that writing and talking about SEC sports is the best possible predictor and also the best possible situation to prepare for talking about politics. Because the only thing that matters more than religion, and maybe not even as much in the South, is SEC sports. And I have made a living off of being a guy who's reasonable talking about SEC sports. You might not agree with me, but most people are so partisan in favor of their own team. Congratulations to Arkansas, by the way, 1 game away from winning the College World Series. Been fun to watch. Most people are so far partisan in favor of their team that they lose all touch of reasonableness. I think it's a crazy thing to say. I think I'm the most reasonable person in sports media. That's a crazy thing to say, and it speaks to how weird of a world we're in right now, where being the most reasonable person in sports media makes you the most reasonable person, and it's radical. It's radical to be reasonable. It's radical to be like, you know what? I think there's some good arguments here. I think there's some other good arguments here. I'm going to make this decision. So there are people out there a lot who complain and will say, oh, no, it's about winning. It's about dominating your opponent. Everything else, I disagree. It's about trying to establish rules that you believe should govern and then applying them evenly everywhere. And I started doing this for the first time. Every time a story would come out, I would say, okay, Tennessee fan, pretend you are not a Tennessee fan. How would you respond if the Florida Gators or the Alabama Crimson Tide were in this exact same situation? If you are reasonable, your response should be the same, whether it's a Florida Gator doing it, a Tennessee Volunteer, or an Alabama Crimson Tide member. That's why eventually I said, you know what, I don't care if players get paid. I understand it's fun to sit around and claim that your SEC school doesn't pay and somebody else does. But I got to tell you, ultimately it all comes in cycles. And what is reasonable now is going to change in the future if you constantly adjust your logic to apply it so that your partisan side is advantaged. This is why I said on the show the other day, I would have served Sarah Sanders. I would have served Vice President Joe Biden. I run a business. If somebody wants to eat in my restaurant, I'm happy to accept their money. In exchange, they can get whatever they want. Now, if somebody comes in and wants me to buy a book and they say, hey, Clay Travis, will you write The SEC Blows? Maybe, but you have to pay me a lot of money. Will you write the SEC rules? Yeah, because that's what I believe. All right? That's my thought in general on the Supreme Court. What questions do you have? And by the way, you want to talk about range? Here's our topics today. Supreme Court, Disney Fox okayed by the Department of Justice. LeBron and Kawhi, where are they going to end up? NFL plunges in Texas. The amount of favorability has collapsed in the wake of politicization of the NFL. And Germany's out. You want to talk about a craziness? That's a lot of range for a show. We got a lot going on. Okay, questions that you have. Do I think Biden could beat Trump? Yeah, I do. I think Biden versus Trump would be great. My concern of what we're going to get in the 2020 election is Trump against the anti-Trump, which would likely be a minority woman, like Kamala Harris out of California. And then we spend an entire year and a half talking about how racist and sexist everything is, and eventually everybody just throws up their hands. I would rather see two guys who are similar, but have different political views, but at least look similar. Trump versus Biden, Trump versus Mayor Bloomberg in a battle for New York City supremacy that's writ large on the national stage. That's what I would prefer, but I think the Democratic Party and the Republican Party are so bound up in identity politics now that we will get the two most opposing identities to run against each other in 2020. Black woman and white man. That's my prediction of what's going on. And everybody will just go into their respective tribal camps, and the world will basically burn while this presidential campaign goes on. So that bothers me in many respects. Okay, any other questions, Facebook or Twitter, about what I haven't said about this presidential decision and also the Supreme Court nominee in general? Disney Fox. Disney Fox has been okayed by the Justice Department. The big decision with Disney Fox on top of that is, I think, utterly fascinating. The 22 regional sports networks are going to have to be divested by Disney, assuming that Disney ends up getting all of the Fox rights. What is going to actually happen for these 22 regional networks? I've been talking to people all day. This news just came down a few hours ago. Been talking to people all day. Nobody knows. Could AT&T bid for some of these regional networks? Could Verizon? Could Comcast in theory, but is Disney so angry at Comcast that they're not willing to share them? Could some gambling companies make the decision to come out and make a play? Could other teams potentially follow the Yankees' need and lead and buy their own station? The Yes Network is likely to be purchased by the New York Yankees now, and then they'll have their own means of distribution by owning their own cable network. Could other teams with multi-year long-range agreements for television or short-term agreements where they don't know where the money's going to come from in the future make the decision to go ahead and buy these networks? Will they be broken up? Will they be sold in totality? We don't know exactly what is going to happen here, but this is an utterly fascinating story. The other aspect here, is Comcast going to come in over the top and bid more than $71.3 billion, which is what has been bid so far? I don't know the answer to that. There are probably not very many people even in Comcast right now who know for sure. That's a story to follow as well, because Fox is trying to get this Disney deal done, but ultimately the person who bids the most money is going to have the best possible opportunity here. If you say something really dumb and I happen to look over and see it, like I just did here, this guy right here, you have said something so dumb, I will block you, all right? He said Biden would get 400 electoral votes against Donald Trump. No, he wouldn't. It's a 50-50 country. If I look over and I happen to see that argument that you just made is so insanely dumb, you don't deserve the right to make any other arguments, okay? Most of the time I don't read the comments, but if I happen to look over and I see you saying something so illogical or something so stupid, then I am going to wipe you out and you won't be able to continue with your commenting ever on this show again. So, look, I don't have a real high standard for what discourse should be on the show, but if I happen to look over and see how stupid you are, then I am going to wipe you out. You can make an argument on the show, say something funny, you can be entertaining in the comments, but if I look over and see stupidity and I say, my God, that's so fucking stupid, I'm going to block it, you are gone forever. And you don't get the opportunity to continue to argue. Okay, so any questions about Disney Fox and the Department of Justice decision today? Again, in essence, the merger is allowed, does not violate antitrust law, but in order to ensure that that occurs, then the Disney will have to divest 22 regional sports networks, and who will end up buying those and what will transpire in the event that Disney does complete the merger and purchase, we don't know. Okay. Yeah, if you say something stupid and I don't happen to see it, then you're probably not going to get blocked. I probably read 5% of the mentions overall, okay? So if I happen to look over and you say something stupid and I see it, then you're gone. You might get away with it for a little while. You might be over there dancing merrily, saying stupid things for a long time, but sooner or later, I will catch you. I'm like an assassin who is killing people like crazy on Fortnite. I might, and I'm making Fortnite analogies because my kids are playing Fortnite downstairs right now. You might get to hide in a little house for a while, and I might not be able to find you in every game. But sooner or later, Clay Kyle is going to bring out his gun, and he's going to catch your little bitch ass hiding in the corner, whimpering, saying stupid things, and I'm going to execute you, and you're going to be done, and then your game is going to be over. So that is the analogy that brings forth here. All right, LeBron and Kawhi. I floated this idea. I think LeBron James, and this is funny, I've been texting with Brandon Wright, who is an NBA player, awesome dude, about what's going to go on in the NBA. And NBA players are hitting refresh on their phones as feverishly as average fans are, because most of them have no idea what LeBron James is going to do either. And he's holding everybody hostage until that ends up happening. And so I floated this idea. If LeBron's all about the money, stay with the Cavs for one more year, make a max deal, and then leave after a year, persuade Klay Thompson to leave the Golden State Warriors and come to the Lakers, back near home. He's from Orange County. Get Kawhi Leonard to come as an unrestricted free agent to the Lakers, and then join them, and you've got a team that's good enough to win a championship. Right now, I'm not sure that Paul George makes a difference enough with LeBron. I love what Klay Thompson could bring with LeBron James. Klay Thompson is a quintessential spot-up shooter. LeBron would feed him all day long. He would average 25 or 30. LeBron could also use Kawhi Leonard on the defensive side of the ball, wouldn't have to play against the best team, could relax more, could rest more. I think that could make a lot more sense. Kawhi Leonard, we'll see what happens between the next couple of days, whether or not the Spurs feel any pressure to trade him. Germany is out in the World Cup. Huge upset. They were 17-1, or Korea was a 17-1 underdog. They pulled off a massive, massive upset. And as a result, We are looking at a wide open World Cup. I am on Team England. I'm sorry, Three Lions, for cursing you. I have belief in you, and I think you guys can make a substantial run in this tournament, even though you haven't won since 1966. All right? On top of that, as if that were not enough of all the news that we have going on right now, this came out this morning. I think a lot of people will not see it, and I think as a result, it's important to go check out. And that is this. I'm going to read it to you. The NFL is collapsing in the state of Texas. The NFL is collapsing in the state of Texas. If you have not seen this, this blew my mind. The heartbeat of football in America, high school, college, and pro, is the state of Texas. No one loves football more than Texas. These numbers came out from the Texas Tribune in concert with the University of Texas early this morning while we were still live on the air, and I was blown away by the results. What is your opinion of the NFL? Only 26% of Texans have a favorable opinion right now of the NFL. 47% have an unfavorable opinion. White guys, 20% favorable. Hispanic guys, mostly guys, also women, 29% favorable. Black guys and girls, 49% favorable. This is interesting because Twitter would have you believe that black people are abandoning the NFL in record numbers over the way that Colin Kaepernick is being treated. At least in the state of Texas, black people really aren't that impacted by the Colin Kaepernick protest at all. It's white and Hispanic people that are deciding to leave the NFL fan base. Now, that's important because I don't know what the population of black people in the state of Texas is, but it's 12 or 13% nationwide. You can't build a nationwide business with 12 or 13% support. This is why Jerry Jones, as the owner of the Cowboys, this is why Bob McNair, as the owner of the Texans, have been so instrumental in arguing that the NFL has to solve its anthem controversy. My book, keep saying it's coming out in September. It's called Republicans Buy Sneakers Too. It makes the argument, I think in a compelling fashion, that sticking to sports is great for athletes. That the best thing you can do if you want to appeal to the largest possible audience is not decide to get involved in sports. Yet what do we see in politics? Yet what do we see athletes and teams and leagues do over and over and over again? They're following the lead of social media. They're driving off the edge of a cliff, and the brand and their sport and their business is falling behind them. Here's a great analogy I used this morning on the radio show. Did you see the controversy over Getty Images apologizing for putting together a slideshow of good-looking women who were at World Cup matches? They apologized and they said, "We're so sorry for offending people. This did not meet our editorial standards." And my response was, who are they apologizing to? On my radio show this morning, I opened up the phone lines. We're on in all 50 states. We are on satellite radio. There is few people in the world of sports that has a bigger daily audience than I do, okay? I spoke to the entire nation this morning. I said, here is our phone number. Call in right now if you were upset or offended by this. I want to hear from you. Do you know how many people called in? 0. Not one person called in to complain about Getty Images having a collage, a slideshow of good-looking women who had gone to World Cup games. Do you know why? Because nobody's actually offended. Yet on social media, there's like 10 people who are upset, and they're like, oh my God, this is unbelievable, and they have no audience, and they're total pussies, and they make companies uncomfortable, and those companies have no actual functional penis. And so as a result, they apologize, they tuck their penis between their legs, and they throw themselves on the mercy of the mob and say, my God, how did we ever make this decision? I got a crazy idea for you. Men like to look at good-looking women. That's how biology works. The reason why I exist, the reason why you look and exist as you do, is because at some point in time, your father saw your mother and wanted to sleep with her. That's why our species exists. That's why we don't still live in caves, all right? At some point, your mom saw your dad and thought, of all the options I could have, this guy's not that bad. And as a result, you were created. That is never going to change. It is going to be the case since time immemorial. It will be the case long after I die. The fact that men now have to apologize because they find women attractive is a sign that our country has gone insane, and a big part of why our country has gone insane is because of all the losers active on social media who sit around and complain because there is a gallery of good-looking women who have chosen to go to the World Cup. If you want to complain about something, here's what I'd like to complain about. I started off my day at 4:15 a.m. Do you know how I started it off? Checking to see what the top stories were in sports. Do you know what the first thing I saw when I went to check the top stories in sports on ESPN.com's app? Greg Norman's ass. Now, I don't know about you, but when I wake up in the morning, the first thing I think isn't, I want to see an old dude's bare ass. Yet, thanks to ESPN, that happened. And then I went earlier live on the show, and I said, you know what? Who's playing today in the World Cup? Do you know what happened? I saw Saquon Barkley naked pushing a tire. I don't want to see that. That is something that I think I don't need to see. But if you are going to make people naked all over the ESPN, the body issue, at least show me some dick. Now, I got an unblemished record of heterosexuality here, all right? But if you are going to take naked photos of all these athletes, the only thing I wonder about them is how big is their dick, right? I mean, isn't that what every guy would think? Does Greg Norman have a huge dick? Maybe that's why he was able to drive the ball so far. I want to see the dick. I don't want to see Yasiel Puig jumping up with his glove in front of his dick. Show me the dick. I know what their chest looks like. I can see them. I know what their legs look like. Why in the world are we taking photos of men only covering their dick when the only thing that's remotely interesting about them naked is their dick? I mean, come on. Everybody's here with me. Guys, like, I know if you have a big bicep, I want to see your dick. If you're going to pose nude, I'm going to look at your dick. By the way, I would say the same thing about the women, but I'm 39 years old and I have 26 years at least, maybe 27 invested in being able to mentally undress women. So I know what your nipples look like. I have a pretty good sense what your vagina might look like. So I don't really need to see that. I already know. I can see it in my head. That's how my brain works. I have a spidey sense for undressing women with all they're still wearing clothes. Sometimes I'm surprised, rarely. Used to be surprised. I only see one woman naked now. It's my wife. It's a good look for her. She sees me naked. Bad look for her. But if you're going to do nudity, then show me the dick. That's all I say. Same thing at the combine. If you're going to measure every body part, measure the dick. All right? When they go to the combine every year, I say this. What do? They measure the hand, they measure the foot, they measure the shoulders, they measure the inseam. The only thing they don't measure is the dick. I got to tell you, how do we know that the dick isn't the perfect size to determine who's going to win a Super Bowl as a quarterback? What if there is a magical dick length that connects every Super Bowl winning quarterback? And everybody out there is like, I just can't figure out why this guy didn't pan out as a quarterback. He had all the measurables. Did he have all the measurables? Do you know what his dick was? Because it might be the same size as Tom Brady's, or it might not. Just an idea. Don't say that I'm a genius, but I'm kind of a genius. My name is Clay Travis. This is Outkick the Show. You find me another show where they broke down the politics of Supreme Court justice selection and also told you that you wanted more dick in your naked athlete photos. And I'll tell you what, that's the greatest show that's ever existed, because there isn't one. It's this one. My name's Clay Travis. It's Outkick the Show. Go check out sportsbookreview.com if you need a great hookup when it comes to gambling on the World Cup. And if you need a mortgage, thehomeloanexpert.com. DBAP, boys and girls, don't be a pussy is what that stands for. But it's important. Sometimes be a pussy. Got to make smart decisions. If you got to give somebody, get them across a lake in Kenya and it's filled with crocodiles, you might be a pussy to not jump into the lake. But sometimes being a pussy is a good idea. I love all you guys. Share it with your friends. If you enjoy this show, share it with your friends as well. I'm Clay Travis. I'm out. I'll be live tomorrow, 6 to 9 a.m. Eastern on Fox Sports Radio, all 50 states, and satellite radio. See y'all tomorrow.